All right, guys, in today's video, we're out here with Mr. JT Thomas. JT, thanks for coming out here.
What's up, EC?
You guys have seen JT before, probably all over the place. The man travels the globe teaching golf. If you haven't, in today's video, we're going to talk driver, the slingshot swing method, some of the pieces that JT coaches to help you hit your driver farther, really without more effort. In fact, probably less effort, more distance is what we're looking for here. JT and I have been coaching both in person and online for a long time. We do like 1,000 online lessons a month. I've seen him do this with people with driver a lot over the probably past 5 or 6 years that have helped them hit their driver farther. So the goal today is to help them hit their driver farther. There's 3 key pieces that JT we're going to talk about here. Why don't we give them kind of what those 3 are first,
Yep.
and then we'll go into each one in more detail with feels and drills and stuff. So
Perfect.
guys watching, JT sends
Yep.
his swings in. He's
Yep.
like, hey, dude, I need more distance. I hit it 220, 230, 240, whatever I hit it. I want more distance. What are the keys that they could do in their swing to help them get that distance?
Yeah, so, big keys to hit the ball farther and create speed is we have to use our arms properly. So the club and our hands are attached to our arms, or the other way around, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
And so we got to be able to use our arms properly. If we don't use our arms properly, we can't get any speed to the club. So understanding how to use your rib cage, which influences your arms, a big deal. So that's kind of how we start with understanding how to do the slingshot gang movements, is learning how to turn the rib cage first. So that would probably be step 1. After that would be learning how to get your left arm above your pec. So a lot of people pull their left arm too far inwards. And then the last one would be like a baseball throw, or just learning how to pull your right arm away from your chest. So those 3 would be the big concepts of how to do the slingshot game.
Rib cage rotation, especially early, lead arm on top of the pec,
Yep.
and then trail arm around more.
Around more, yeah.
And I know through our teaching, especially when we were doing the in-person schools back in the day,
Yep.
most everyone who would come in, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think most everyone who would come in who needs more distance or struggles with it, very rarely would they have enough rib cage rotation early.
Yeah, very rarely.
Right.
Most of the time they start using their arms early.
Yes.
Which is what causes a lot of the issues, right?
I mean, probably 80+%. So odds are, if you need more distance, you want to learn how to turn the rib cage sooner and earlier. Why don't we dive into that a little bit?
Yep.
Maybe like, what are some of the feels and drills, or what are we looking to do when we do the rib cage?
Yeah, so my favorite drill to help you learn how to turn your rib cage is where you just take a club. You can use your driver. The longest club is super helpful. You're going to put it right in between your sternum and your belly button. And then you're going to take your arms and reach out over the club like this.
Okay.
And so now your arms are kind of pigeonholed in the spot. You don't want to move the club at all with your arms. So the only way you want it to move is through your ribs or through your torso rotation.
Okay.
So now when we swing back here, I'm going to try to take a swing back, and you'll notice really the only way I can move the club is turning my torso. So now my belly button's facing this camera really nicely. My chest is facing the camera, and I haven't really used my arms yet.
Yeah.
So this is like a really awesome drill to help do it. Just take the club again right between sternum and belly button. Feel like you're turning as far as you can turn. Probably need some belt buckle turn as well, but the rib cage is the easiest way to think about it.
And JT, why don't we do like 1 or 2 of those drills, and then
Yep.
we'll hit one feeling the same thing, and
Yeah,
then we'll kind of
perfect.
keep working through the details.
Sounds great. Yeah, so here, just feeling that here, trying to get it over. Feel that turn.
Pure turn.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
JT, when you're doing that, at what point before we hit, like when you're feeling that, if the arms were moving,
Yep.
is that kind of like, okay, the hands are like hip high-ish at
Yeah,
this
exactly.
point?
Hip height, yeah.
Okay.
They haven't really raised yet very much. You're not really using them much because we want to save the raising for later.
Save the raising for later.
Yeah.
JT Thomas Gold there. So we would do the drill once or twice, right? They would get that feel, and then when they hit, they're trying to replicate that same sensation early.
Yes, early.
Okay.
As much as they can do it, as early as they can do it.
Let's poke one out there
Yeah.
with that.
So that's my feel there, really trying to turn my ribs early as I can. Rib cage turn.
Yeah, and you do that really well. I mean, obviously, like JT, when he hits his driver, probably casually hits the ball 300+ yards.
Yep.
But the principle applies, guys, no matter where you're at with your game. It doesn't matter whether you're a plus handicap, you're shooting under par, you just started playing. To hit the ball as far as you can with really the least amount of effort, that early rib cage rotation is so key. Now, and let's say within that too, with the early rib cage rotation, because there are a couple other drills and feels.
Yeah.
I know that one, that's a good one there to start with. There's one or two other ones I saw you do, JT. You kind of had the like light in the sternum.
Yes.
Maybe let's show them that one too as a different feel.
So this one's great too because it adds the arm element into it, right?
Okay.
So that's just a body element to give you a body feel of like, okay, wow, that's way different than I typically turn.
Yeah.
Like, how do I use my arms with that? And so that's what this drill is for. And so what you do with this drill is kind of you take it and you put it in the same sort of spot in between your sternum and your belly button. Take your trail hand, you make it super straight, grab the club, and then you actually put your lead hand maybe like 6 inches on the front side of the club.
Yeah, okay, I like this one.
Now, what happens is when we go back, what most people do is, again, they don't turn their rib cage. Maybe they turn a little amount, and then they start, here goes the arm.
Yeah,
way
right.
underneath
Yes.
it. There we get the bad stuff. So instead, what you're going to feel is keeping the arm in front of the club as you turn. So you're turning my rib cage, turning my rib cage. My arm actually stays in front of this. There's no
like
pulling inwards of this.
So the lead arm always stays closer to the target than the club.
Yes.
And if you did it the bad way, that arm would go across.
Yes, the arm would go under and across as well. So.
And most all people who struggle with distance, we would see that pattern.
Yes.
That's big time.
100%.
So when you're doing that drill in the beginning, if you haven't done that before, like me coming from someone I met, JT too, who did that, very little turn, a lot of arms and hands, it's gonna feel as though you have a massive amount of body or rib cage rotation compared to normal, and that's okay. That's normal, and obviously they can double check that with video.
Yes.
But it's not gonna be like, oh, hey, I'm feeling my rib cage a little bit more. It's gonna feel like you're turning a lot more than normal.
Yes.
Why don't we hit one more with just that same feel?
Yep.
Let's do that drill one more time, JT, with the club, and
So
I like
here,
that a lot.
in front, trying to keep that space, that same space in between, you know, my hand and the club, turning.
Yeah, what a good drill that
really
is.
rib cage turn. Now, again, this lead arm's nice and in front. This is what we're looking to have happen. So.
When you guys are watching this, if you're wondering, any of you like, how do I start the swing? What am I supposed to feel? That would be a really, really good place to start.
Yes, exactly.
And then we're gonna hit with that same sort of sensation.
Absolutely. So trying to get the rib cage out of the way, trying to keep the arms a little bit more in front. I think it's what you see when you see a lot of tour players doing their waggle. So here we go.
Yeah, nice. And again, I mean,
that one was pure.
JT's such a good example of this. He does this so nicely. But you work this into your own swing as well, right? It wasn't all natural.
Yeah.
So rib cage rotation being part one, right? And then the second piece of this being how the arms load and kind of getting the lead arm above the pec. And there's a couple things to talk through here within this. I think to start with, when you do the rib cage rotation piece well early and the arm stays in front, like you said, when you do that drill, that kind of shows you what the arms need to do in the first part of the swing.
Yep.
Then the key is, and the next question, of course, is like, okay, guys, what do I do from there to the top? And if we start with that lead arm on top of pec piece, maybe how do we get to that position? Why is it important?
Yeah, so the reason I like to talk about the rib cage first is because the rib cage influences how you can use your arm. So essentially, you know, if I'm standing here looking straight at the camera, my ribs are, you know, facing the ball, I can kind of lift my arms up, I can pull them across pretty far, I can kind of do whatever I want. Well, if I start moving my arms really far and low, and I haven't moved my rib cage, now like I'm pigeonholed, right? I have no movement for them. I can't really move them anywhere. So the lifting of the lead arm or lifting of it over the pec allows the, essentially, fancy term, your scapula to go around your rib cage easier. So when you have it too low, it can't really go anywhere around your rib cage. It's stuck. And so again, that limits the distance that the hands can travel, and obviously you're going to limit your speed, limit your distance. So the key for learning this would be a very similar drill that we did with feeling in here. Now your goal would be to do the same drill, but then start lifting your arm up much higher than where this club is. So the higher you can feel your arm, I tell people to try to feel like they're kissing their bicep. That would be an easy way to think about it. But that's really important for, again, the ability for your arm to reach around your rib cage. So anytime it gets low, you notice I can't really reach very far. If I start to lift this up, or again, I'm trying to reach as far as I can here, I can't get very far. Notice I start raising my arm up. See how much farther from that face-on view I was able to get my scap around my rib cage. So that's a huge deal when it comes to creating speed, creating power.
And would you say, JT, so if you kind of, let's demonstrate the first part of the swing with just the rib cage rotation.
Yep.
So maybe like to about hip high, with a club in there, like a little takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get us to kind of like hip high. So let's say this is our good starting point, rib cage is turned. Now, can you demonstrate from there how the arms go from there to the top?
Yeah, so what we're looking to have happen actually is the trail elbow to start folding, so to start bending, and then that allows the lead arm to start lifting over it. So if that right arm stays too straight as well, I can't get my left arm over it.
Yeah.
So what we really want is kind of simultaneous movement of this trail arm bending or folding, and then the lead elbow going above it.
And when the lead arm, or let's say the arm gets above the pec, if we go up to the top of the backswing,
Yep.
Would you see from there, like, okay, the left arm might be slightly above the shoulder plane?
Yes.
As like a checkpoint?
Yes, and the left elbow is much higher than the right elbow. So a quick drill I'll give you that we didn't talk about too much would be taking the club head, putting it right on your right elbow, the grip side on your lead elbow. Just take your hands like this, like you're holding a club. Twist to the right, nice rib cage rotation. Now what I want you to feel is get the grip higher than the club head.
Ooh, okay.
So get the grip higher than the club head here. Now you start loading this arm above the pec, and you really start loading the right arm really well too.
Now, as some people are going to watch that and they're going to get a little nervous,
Yeah.
and they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you know, I thought I'm supposed to get some depth here. You guys are talking about getting the arms up, right? I kind of get that, hey, having the arms higher would create more speed. One of the things too, and so I want to dive into in a minute of, okay, how do I do that, but then also still get the depth piece? But if you would just go up to the top of the backswing one more time,
Yep.
and we'll show some of these swings here. You can see JT's lead arm slightly above the shoulder line, right? The other thing I tell a lot of golfers, and JT does too, if you draw a line across the butt of the club in terms of height, the butt of the club should be above your head, and that would produce more potential power. Now, it's not above his head and over here.
Correct.
Right? There's still some depth to this bad boy, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And so I think, let's just say, now I think this kind of takes us into maybe the right arm piece. We want height for speed and distance of the arms, and maybe the lead arm is more responsible for the height piece, like
Yes,
you mentioned.
definitely.
But then let's talk, how does the trail arm piece play into the depth?
Yeah, so that's a really big deal, right? So we don't want people just lifting their arms up, right? That would
Right,
be
we're
no
not looking
good.
for that.
You're not looking for that.
No.
But we do need to add some depth, and the reason this right arm is so important is because it makes golf much more intuitive. So this is my favorite part about it, is because throwing is something we've done for a long time, and most people know how to throw. And if you're throwing something, you know, if I'm throwing from here to Mary, then I would just throw. I wouldn't think about pull my arm here, step my foot here, right?
Yeah.
I would just throw it. And so that's why I like learning how to use the right arm so much, is because it's very intuitive of where we release the energy. So the depth piece and how we feel for that should feel like a throw. So
Okay.
if you're right-handed, which most people are and they play golf, yeah, exactly. They're gonna feel that bicep get away from your chest.
Bicep get away from my chest, okay.
Exactly.
Bicep away from the pec.
Yes.
Like
and-
I'm pulling back to throw like a football or
Yes.
baseball or any of that.
Yep.
Okay.
And so again, if we have that lead arm too low and I pull back, that's not going to be good. I'm not going to be able to pull it back very far.
Yep.
So as we get that lead arm up and we get it higher, now we can start to have the feeling of this elbow pull behind us this way. Again, very much so like a throw, and that creates that depth that we talk
Yes.
about from this down the line view to help the golfer swing enough from the inside and, you know, hit up on the ball, start to draw the golf ball. Yeah.
And let's take your setup one more time, JT. Let's go to the top with let's just do a good backswing with the right arm kind of pulling around good depth.
Yep.
So if we took this right arm and kind of from the front, you can kind of start to probably see the scap on this side of his body. Let's say now watch where the butt of the club is here. This is good depth. Now do the bad version with the right arm, like no depth.
Yeah.
So see how when the right arm goes back in front of him, how the butt of the club is way too far this way. Now, unless you're high eye-hand coordination sort of thing, you would have to fix this on the way down and do all kinds of things to shallow that club out, maybe that we don't want to do.
Correct.
So you're going to likely go too far over from there.
Yep.
So part of the reason you get to get the depth again, JT,
Yep.
like he mentioned already, just repeating this, part of why this is so important outside of just the power is it also makes it easy for that club to stay back from inside.
Correct.
To swing from inside. You don't have to do any compensations from there.
Exactly.
The shoulder piece. Now, also, because we coach a lot of people, I know some people are going to be nervous about, hey, wait a minute. I thought I'm supposed to keep my arm in front of my body. What are you talking about? Pull the arm around.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple important concepts. One of how the arm rotates with it, and two, in general, that's happening as the body's turning.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get to that, guys, I want to go through this because I think the details are important. When you're doing the takeaway, I'm assuming from a timing aspect. JT said something a long time ago that I thought was so good. It's not only what you do or don't do, it's when you do it that's really important. I was like, oh my gosh. So from the are you doing the arm motion from the takeaway to the top? Is that, or is it later?
Yeah, it's probably in terms of the pulling back.
Yeah.
Definitely a little bit later.
Late
so
backswing.
we're talking maybe around the 60% mark, 70% mark.
Left
in your
arm
backswing.
parallel to the top-ish?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, left
Okay.
arm parallel to the top-ish. Yep.
Okay, so we're not doing this right off the bat
Definitely
with the
not.
body. It's in front of us maybe to here, and then that's more happening.
Yes.
So as the arm pulls back, how is that not bad that it's like behind our body? How do we keep that in front as we do that?
Yeah, so this is a really big deal too. So when you are pulling your right arm behind you, you want to make sure that you are rotating your right arm to the right. So all that means is you want to try to put your palm up towards the sky.
Like clockwise?
Like clockwise.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason, again, that's important is that allows for a retraction easier, which is what we're trying to get to see that scap. When we go this way, you notice your scap starts to come like kind of up off your rib cage this way. Yep.
So that would be like this way?
Yes.
Okay.
And that wouldn't really create any depth. The pulling back is what, again, when we throw, right, we're throwing oftentimes like that. At the end of that throw, the hand is going this way.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
staying like this the whole time as we throw. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
let's go that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's go that way. Yep.
So yeah, and give us some visuals that way as you go to the top, though. That's good.
Yeah. So this is really important here. So as we go back, so important. As we load that right arm and we're trying to pull it back, we allow it to twist to the right. So if we start twisting this way, again, that starts making the right arm look funny. It's not actually really even going around us. The club is still just going up.
Yes.
So as we are going from that, 60 or 75%, we're feeling that right arm throw, really pull behind us. We have to get that right arm to twist to the right.
Oh, that's
so
an
again,
important piece there.
that's
Okay.
again like feeling like the palms up to the sky. Most people worry about that too when it comes to the face. They're like, isn't the face going to be open too? Like, isn't the face going to be open when I do that?
Right.
But no, actually what happens is when we do this properly and the lead arm is above it, it actually helps us bend our wrist back.
I was just going to say the trail wrist is still bent back.
Yes,
yeah.
definitely still bent back, and the weight of the club helps us bend it back. So many people struggle with, man, I'm trying to get my wrist bent back. I can't do it. Why can't I do that? It's because all of these muscles are trying to turn the same way. So if you're fighting each other, it's not gonna be very good.
Yeah, right.
So the more you can twist to the right, the easier it is to actually hold your wrist like this. So
that's a whole golden nugget video probably in and of itself.
Exactly.
Now let's do the good version one more time to the top.
Yeah. So
this
as
is
we go here.
all good pieces, right? The rib cage rotated, the arms on top of the pec, the arms around. Now, if we have, let's say, too much internal and pronation of the arm, this would be like the bad one where he pulled the arm around, right?
Yep.
But the elbow's too far behind us. You see where that changes the shaft direction, changes the wrist angles, etc. And then now let's go from there to the good version. So see the difference in where that moves the club at the top, okay? Same other motions, but just changing that arm rotation piece that JT mentioned. Also, you can reset there for a second.
Yep.
Also, when we're talking about the arm pulling around, right, retracting the shoulder, getting the depth piece, we're not doing that with zero body rotation.
Correct.
So not only does the arm rotating, there's some supination going on, right? I'm still turning.
Yep.
And so part of the elbow not going behind us is the turning piece.
Yep.
And I think that's just an important piece to clarify. So
that's why we want to get the turn out of the way sooner too. So even if you're not as flexible, you're not capable maybe of continuing that turn like young Tiger can, as long as you get enough early, you're going to have sufficient amount of depth for sure at the top, and you're going to be able to hit some really nice golf shots.
So it's like so key. If they don't do it early enough, they're in big trouble.
They're in big trouble.
Got to do the rib cage rotation early. So that's a little bit high. I want to set another one in a second. That's some more high level detail there. That's so good. And you don't get that in a lot of videos, right? I think it's good that we go through that. The 101 version is rotate your rib cage early. The lead arm is controlling the height. You want to get the arm on top of the pec, and then the trail arm's working around to get some of the depth pieces.
Exactly.
Right? And that's like more distance, less effort. Why don't you hit one more for us, JT, with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Rib cage early.
Rib cage early, lead arm above pec, trail shoulder pulling back like a throw. So those things put together here.
That's pretty nice right there.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's about a 1 yard draw, 310 down the middle, 2 yards behind me.
Yeah.
But not bad, pretty good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, wanted to go through more of the details. Obviously JT, self-apparent, a stud of a golf coach. One of the few guys I trust enough to work on my own game for the past couple of years. We're gonna put JT's info down below. I would go see him in person. He travels all around the globe, literally coaching golf. So wherever you're at, if you can't get in with JT there, we do coach online, cogornogolf.com. Can't recommend it highly enough that you send your swing in so we can go through the details like that. You get a plan in place. JT, that was fun, man.
Super fun.
Appreciate you. Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, guys.